Holy crap, everybody, we gotta freak out about episode 5, so just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. We're almost done with the season, so if you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get everything. There were so many bombs, atomic bombs, dropped in this episode, and Gilly's was probably my favorite. So let's do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs from the books. There were all kinds of references going back to season 1, especially when Jon met Gendry for the first time. But let's start at the top of the episode. Daenerys sentencing Randyll Tarly and Dickon to death. So you have to feel bad for Dickon, but now you understand why they had so many of those Jaime jokes. They want you to remember who he is and why he's important. They wanted you to sympathize with him for a little bit. I feel like it kind of didn't work. Like a lot of people are like, maybe he's the one that saved Jaime. That probably would have made people sympathize with him more, but that wound up being Bronn. You can't die until I get what's owed me. Only I can kill you. But I really love the way they shot that scene, though, where she walks into the bottom of the frame and just towers over everyone, just to show you visually with the camera how much power she has if the giant dragon behind her didn't do the trick. So many great Tyrion moments here. They're laying little bombs for each of the storylines, like Littlefinger left a little bomb for Arya to find. Gilly dropped a big Rhaegar Targaryen Lyanna Stark bomb. So this is the writers dropping a Tyrion Daenerys bomb. Like, she won't be the Mad Queen as long as she has someone really good to counsel her. Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to chop their heads off, as they just get incinerated to ash right before everyone. There were a couple chuckles to be had with the way that Drogon screamed, making everyone immediately bend the knee, but you have to know that Randyll Tarly is a proud man, and I love the way he went out like a boss. He lets Daenerys know exactly what he thinks of her, Tyrion, and the Dothraki. So I'll understand if you kind of sympathize with his character because he was a great battle commander, but it's almost like they wanted there to be no out for that situation, like he was never going to do what Daenerys wanted, so she would have seemed weak had she not burned them alive. And by the end of the episode, Samwell still doesn't know that they're dead. The Maesters say that they never told him, and Samwell never acknowledges it as they're riding away from the Citadel. But number 9, up at Winterfell, we finally see that scene from the trailer where Bran wargs all the ravens to find out where the army of the dead is. And the Night King looks like he's able to break Bran's control of them, so I would say they're relatively evenly matched in terms of power levels. So it'll be interesting to see if they have some sort of psychic battle before the end of the season, because they're mostly concerned with physical battles right now, especially with Jon Snow's party that just made it north of the Wall. But I love the way they follow up in the Citadel. You kind of know the direction this was headed earlier in the season, where the Maesters are meant to be this really learned but very stuffy and old stuck-in-their-ways organization. And I know a lot of people have conspiracies about their plot to get rid of magic in the world, but that all just seems like way too much story for the show to actually handle. So this is mostly just about Samwell being really upset that they're not actually going to do something about this. But if you caught it, there was some really quick references from some of the other Maesters where they're talking about the Drowned God and other prophecies.
It brings to mind the work of Jenny Holstone, the charlatan who claimed descent from the children of the forest.
Don't forget the prophet Lodos, who promised that the drowned god would rise up and destroy Aegon the Conqueror.
They referenced Jenny of Oldstones claiming to be descended from the children of the forest. In the books, she was married to a Prince Duncan Targaryen. She got a prophecy from a witch in the woods that was another version of the prince who was promised. So it's like them saying the Maesters got a version of the prophecy of the prince who was promised. It was kind of true in a previous time, but they didn't listen, so the cycle perpetuated. So that might have something to do with them breaking the wheel this time, breaking the cycle of ice and fire. But they really just want you to hate these old Maesters. Like, yeah, there's a prophecy that is probably true. You got it a long time ago. You didn't believe then, meaning that we have to deal with it again today. But it's another way for them to continue to invoke the idea of the prophecy of the prince who was promised Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, and everything that people are talking about the last couple of episodes. Lots of stubborn people in the episode. Even though Daenerys seems to listen to Jon Snow, just like the Maesters are very stuck in their ways, Daenerys seems very stuck in the way that she's going to deal with people. So you see Tyrion just sitting there, oh, she didn't have any other choice. Like, he's trying to rationalize it in his head, burning people alive. And Varys is like, oh yeah, we used to do that at the Red Keep. I used to offer up people to the Mad King. I tried to justify it in my mind, say that this isn't my fault that this is happening. So there are a couple things I'll try to address through the course of the video, and one is the way they're trying to hype up Arya versus Sansa, which I think is a misdirect, totally not going anywhere, and the other is Daenerys Mad Queen. Also, don't think that that's actually going to lead to anything. I think they just don't have a whole lot going on within each of these camps outside of the main plot, and they want to add all this extra drama to make it feel like it's justified spending all these extra scenes at Winterfell, when really there's nothing happening at Winterfell besides Bran having visions of the Night King. Like right now, Daenerys is just sitting around waiting for Jon Snow to get back with the white they went to get for Cersei so that everybody would come together during the armistice. But number 7, smuggler as always, Davos smuggles Tyrion into King's Landing. These were probably some of the best scenes in the episode in all of season 7 so far, just because they're big payoffs. But Tyrion's line where he's like, last time I was here, I killed my father with a crossbow. And then finally, Davos remembers his son Mados. He hasn't mentioned him this whole time. Last time I was here, you killed my son with wildfire. But that Tyrion-Jaime scene next to the Jon Snow Drogon scene is my favorite of the season so far. Just big mythology payoff for Jon Snow meeting Drogon, but it's a big character payoff for Tyrion and Jaime together. The dialogue was better, the pathos in Tyrion's voice. You start to get the idea that Jaime's coming around, but everybody's worried about how Cersei's going to react to this. She doesn't believe in the army of the dead. Daenerys has an idea. She wants an armistice. So I love the follow-up to that too, the idea that Cersei knew about all this was happening because of her little bird. So I'll follow up with that in a second, but we have to talk about the Gendry reunion. So number 6, Davos finds Gendry with a shaved head. Oh, the Lannister soldiers, they don't recognize me. I didn't think that I'd find you. I thought that you'd still be rowing. So it was nice of them to reference the fandom, like all the memes about Gendry rowing. So that is the writer sort of winking at you from behind the camera. But before Davos can even get a word in edgewise, Gendry's like, bam, I'm ready to go. Oh no, I don't have a sword. I have something even better, and whips out a giant warhammer just like Robert's. So this isn't exactly like Robert's, but it's made to look as close as possible. Like it's meant to invoke that imagery, especially once he meets up with Jon Snow. The whole scene with Davos trying to convince the Gold Cloaks to go away was great, but I love the way that Tyrion comes slowly walking down, and it's just a way for them to show you how Gendry can move with the Warhammer, like he just brains them on the spot. So that's why when they get to the Jon Snow meeting, he's like, oh yeah, he can handle himself, don't worry. But number 5, the big Cersei bomb. So obviously she knew about the meeting the whole time and let it happen. Don't you ever betray me again. And reveals another big plot bomb dropped that she's pregnant with another child with Jaime. He seems genuinely happy, but now you're like, oh, wait a minute. Does this mean he's not going anywhere? I think it's another reason for him to not leave, and I'm fascinated to see if this actually winds up happening in the books, because by this time in the story, Jaime has long since left Cersei's company. They haven't had sex in a long, long time. So I feel like the whole purpose of this baby is just to blow up by the end of the season and make Cersei go even crazier. Like it seems like she wants to meet with Daenerys. She's all about the armistice, so there's hope that they can come together to fight the army of the dead. But just think of how she'd react and lash out if something were to happen to that baby. Even if Daenerys had nothing to do with it, she would just go off the rails. It's just something that's ready to blow up in everyone's faces, like the Gilly bomb that was dropped. So number 4, Davos introduces Gendry to Jon Snow. So many great references to season 1. I met your father. He's talking about the time when Ned Stark came looking into Jon Arryn's business to find out about Robert's bastards. I met your father when he came to Winterfell. They acknowledge the great things that they did together during Robert's rebellion. And Gendry just seems really pumped up about going to fight the army of the dead. He's like, I can't sit this war out. I have to do something about this. It almost feels like a little bit of fan service because there have been so many times that they've referenced moments from Robert's Rebellion or big things, like they keep talking about Rhaegar, keep hinting at R+L=J. They keep referencing Aegon the Conqueror. So this is just one of those big payoff moments, like what was it like when Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon fought together as young men during the war? Well, we'll get to see a version of that in the next episode. I love that Tyrion scene with Jorah where he gives him the coin. That was from back in season 5. That was a long time ago. But really, we got to talk about the big Gilly bomb. So number 3, Gilly's a human wiki for facts and just starts reading off things. How many windows in the Great Sept? Well, there are none now. Oh yeah, you're right. There's this maester. He recorded everything. It turns out he recorded this annulment between someone called Rhaegar and someone else down in Dorne while he was also getting him married to someone else. So this is about as obvious as they can be as a way to tell you that Jon Snow is not a bastard, which you probably got a sense for when Missandei was asking them, what is a bastard? I have no concept of that where I'm from. And Jon says, it's because my mother and father were not married. So this is one, their confirmation that R plus L equals J, but also that they were married when it happened, meaning that Jon Snow now has the most legitimate claim to the Iron Throne. Meaning that that plot bomb could blow up in anyone's face whenever they want, but I don't think that he's going to find out this season, and I don't think that Daenerys is either. Samwell didn't even sound like he was listening to Gilly when she said that, so Gilly might be the one to blurt that out, but I still think that Bran is going to be the one to tell him about his parents. So you have a couple different characters now that together have the information that prove that Jon Snow now has the strongest claim to the throne. But if you're wondering why his claim is stronger than Daenerys's because she's his aunt, it's because of primogeniture. So it means that the crown prince, who had the strongest claim to the throne previously, Rhaegar, when he dies or he died, his entire estate, meaning all of his titles and his claim to the throne, passed directly to his oldest living male heir, jumping over any other family members. So just because Daenerys was the brother of the next king of Westeros, it means that the succession passes her over in favor of Jon. So again, we just have to reiterate that Jon Snow does not care about being king. He does not want the Iron Throne. So I don't think it's going to wind up being a very big thing, but it is a very huge confirmation. So we can freak out about it in the comments. But as for him meeting Drogon for the first time, obviously you see that moment of recognition in Drogon, like he sniffs him, he can sense that he's a Targaryen. It's a really convenient way to show you how they're acknowledging Jon Snow's lineage and sets up future connections with the dragons, meaning that yes, I totally think that Jon Snow will ride a dragon before season 8 is over, but I do not think that it's going to happen this season. I think this season is all about moving the chess pieces around and explaining why that's necessary, so you learn about Jon Snow's heritage to inform why it's important that he be connected to Daenerys so that they can fight the War for the Dawn. But I think they're leaving some of that big payoff for season 8. Like Jon Snow riding a dragon feels like one of the biggest things the show could do. They're definitely going to save that for the final season. And what dragon would he ride? What about the one that's named after his father, Rhaegal? So you can let me know in the comments, Jon Snow rides a dragon, which one does he ride first? Does he ride Drogon with Daenerys, or does he ride Rhaegal by himself? But number 2, obviously they dropped that big Arya bomb. Littlefinger proves that he's not completely incompetent. He uses Arya's skills against her to try and create some more chaos inside Winterfell. Maybe to stall for time, you wonder what his game is. He wants Sansa so that he can get to the Iron Throne. She needs control of Winterfell. So if Arya's fighting with her, maybe that will just keep Sansa busy for the time being. Maybe that's his only endgame at this point, because he still needs Sansa, so he doesn't want Arya to kill her. But the way they're playing it up in that promo for the next episode makes it sound like Arya definitely wants to kill Sansa. But again, I don't think that's going anywhere. I think it's just hyping up drama where drama doesn't exist, and they'll both turn against Littlefinger quickly after that once they find out what he's been doing. And you even add to that she was forced to write that letter during season 1 by Cersei and everyone else. So it's not something that she believes. She was just forced to write it, and then that was the end of it. She probably doesn't even remember until Arya confronts her with it. So number 1, of course, the last big payoff, Jon Snow's party arrives at Eastwatch and you have all these amazing reunions. This is also one of my favorite scenes of the episode where they turn up. Tormund is hilarious as always. Which queen is it that you want the help of? The one with the dragons or the one that has sex with her brother? Then Gendry recognizes the Brotherhood. Tormund remembers Jorah's father. He was chasing us down. So they just want to show you that everybody has a reason to hate each other. But then they come to their senses, the gate opens, and they walk into the wall of whiteness. So metaphorically into the mouth of madness. It's going to be fun. So obviously, big action episode next week. There's only 2 episodes left. I believe both of the episodes are longer than an hour, so it's going to be amazing. Leave all your requests for bonus videos in the comments below, but let me know, what was your favorite moment? Which reunion was your favorite? There's a lot of big payoffs, and even though they are speeding through stuff, it was a solid episode. Probably most surprised by the Cersei baby, just because you know that she's not long for this world. She's gotta die at some point. Even if you don't believe in the Valonqar, she's very clearly being presented as the antagonist for the season. Of all the bad people next to the Night King, she's the worst. So it's oh my god, now she's pregnant. So of course it's gonna end spectacularly bad for everybody involved. What'll happen next is I'll post my trailer video in the morning for episode 6, then I'll post new Rick and Morty. Congratulations to the latest giveaway winner, Steven Stapleton. Please private message me on the back end of my channel so I can get your contact details. You can click here to learn all about the Children of the Forest and the White Walker symbols from last week's episode, and you can click here for my episode 4 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.